Hello, everybody. Now I'm saying hello to everyone who is not in this call again. We're gonna discuss the new epic that we created for the second phase of the project of posting the web ID in a second domain. We're gonna do a quick overview and discuss any ambiguities in the issues contained in the epic. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let me share only Chrome. Um, so this epic. Um, the idea of this phase is that now in the first phase, we separated the part of the web ID that runs in the GitLab instance, in the GitLab Rails instance, and that's basically the OAuth client. We separated it from the web ID VS Code workbench. That is like everything related with running VS Code. We created like a secure communication channel between both components. Now that we have like an isolated VS Code workbench, we have to deploy it on a separate service. So temporarily, what we want to do is that we for running the extension host, we have this Cloudflare worker that is served on. Oh, wait a minute.
When you hit read more, did that jump you all the way to the bottom?
Yeah, and I'm not even in the right epic. I'm sorry about that. Let me just open this one. This is the one. I was wondering like why I don't have this the domain name in the epic. And that's the
Mhm.
reason. So we are deploying a Cloudflare worker. We are deploying some VS Code assets to separate the extension host and the WebView host, where like the web ID extensions are run for security purposes. We want to use the same host to deploy the web ID workbench. Right? So the idea is just like this epic contains issues to do that. Like the first issue is that we need to create a release artifact for the web ID workbench. So you know that the workbench is composed by the VS Code fork version that we are bundling with the web ID, the VS Code Bootstrap package. Um, the VS Code Bootstrap package contains all the code to initialize VS Code, to provide authentication credentials, to load the GitLab forms, and all the built-in extensions that we're providing. And finally, the workbench HTML file. This is basically like the document that where we are initializing all these assets and initializing VS Code.
Mhm.
Um, so what I want to do in this issue is taking all of those components, putting them on a zip file, and then deploying them. Not like creating a release in the web ID project. So I don't have it here. Let me just come here. I want to create a release in the release page. We are already doing this for some components. For example, the VS Code theme that is also implemented in the web ID. Every time that we did like create a new version, we create a release here. So I want to create a release for the npm package, for the VS Code Bootstrap package, and the theme.
Can we uh can we stop and stop there and discuss do we need to create a do we need the artifact to be the VS Code Bootstrap package and this other file? Could we so the web ID package when we build everything, it contains stuff inside of its dist folder. Could we like just set those specific bits as the artifacts of this job or something? And
Um, so you like, are you talking about the package that ends up becoming the npm package that you publish?
yes.
Yes, I thought about this, but I want to create a separate release artifact because I want to have a standalone artifact that if a customer with an air gap instance wants to deploy, they just need to like to take this artifact and upload it in their own server. So they don't have to do all these like tinkering where they have to extract the correct files from the npm package. They just need like to upload that.
Right.
That's it.
Right. I think that makes sense. What I'm saying is, can I share my screen real fast? So I'm saying that we have baked in to like the build steps this logic of like stringing together the workbench HTML and other things that all go into this public of what we distribute here. And I think it's this public directory. This would be the thing that we want to upload. So my question is, rather than like, okay, we're going to create a new artifact that restrings together VS Code Bootstrap and something else, is like, oh, could the artifact just be coming from just this folder that's already built?
Yeah, yeah, like
Okay.
that's something that we can do. It's just that maybe I explained the idea incorrectly, but at the end of the day, the result is taking that public folder, zipping it, and uploading it
Nice.
as an
It's
artifact.
in its own. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. So we have, yes, that's cool. Because then we'll release the web ID npm package under a version, but then we'll have another package under the same, hopefully the same version name, which is this public stuff that's very we can use to deploy to Cloudflare or whatever we need to do. So yeah, I love that. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And in that way, there's a match. So if you update the npm package in the GitLab Rails application, we know that there is a matching VS Code Web ID Workbench package
Yeah.
that is gonna be uploaded somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's great. And so just to clarify, it's everything in this public, I guess, that we wanna that's what we're thinking. Okay, cool.
Let me go the Chrome again. Let's go back to the Epic. Um, is there any other questions or comments on the addition? Cool.
Um,
So,
well, related to the whole effort, um, do we want to get the oh uh um I'm gonna embarrass myself and you're recording it. Ah, I feel so bad. I forgot his name who worked on I gotta look it up. What was the infrastructure person's
oh,
name worked
that's
on this?
Gonzalo. Yeah, Gonzalo Servat.
Okay. Yes, Gonzalez. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Please clip that out so I don't hurt anybody's feelings.
I'm gonna edit it. So I'm gonna put just like, oh, you were saying Gonzalo in the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's gonna seem like you always know.
um Is there, do we need for moving the Cloudflare worker? I guess that's the next one. But it's like I was hoping is he gonna be able to hop on and help out?
I don't know, but I'm definitely planning to talk with him because that requires moving some credentials from the VS Code for projects. And we need his collaboration. Um, I'm gonna try like not to overload him with work. That maybe like he just like needs to guide us in moving the credentials.
Hmm,
But definitely we are gonna involve him. I have
cool.
him. I have him in mind.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the second issue in the Epic. Right now in the VS Code for in the VS Code fork project, we have this tool that is deploying these VS Code fork assets to Cloudflare and then exposing them via CDN. Uh, I want to move that to the web ID because otherwise we don't have like all the files that we want to upload. And That means just like moving all the code that is in the VS Code for repository. Let me show you. Let me open the repo. So we have this module here with an implementation of the worker and all the deployment infrastructure. We want to move it to the web IDE along with all the CI configuration. And we also want like to preserve backward compatibility with the path that we are deploying already because workspace is also dependent on this.
Spaces.
Our well, I would say like for Paul, his second favorite project, right? But yes, that would be the idea. We would probably require a little bit of collaboration from the parties.
So let me. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, I was when we were talking about moving it, I was thinking, oh, does Workspaces use it? I was like, they must. Um, and this issue proposes moving the Cloudflare worker to Web ID project. I think it's gonna be a problem because now we have Workspaces patches are their own thing. So what happens if we need to deploy? What would happen if we need to do that?
I think that would be.
We
I don't
actually
know if
wouldn't support that already, right?
we are not even deploying a specific workspaces version of this files in the CDN. Like it's like the workspaces and the web ID are sharing the same file.
Okay.
Um, but the long term vision that that I have for workspaces is that eventually the workbench, like the workbench UI, is also hosted by the web ID, and we can like develop a custom workbench for workspaces. Because right now, if we want to modify the workbench UI in workspaces, we have to modify the VS Code, and that shouldn't be. It's like it's too expensive. It requires like creating builds and then like going to workspaces tools. It's like very expensive to deploy and modify. So I think it would be very good if all of that happens in the Web IDE project. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, if you like it,
That's what I expected to hear, honestly.
Enrique is like, let's be honest, Paul.
So
Uh,
it's very, anyway, it's very like hypothetical yet, but
yeah, yeah.
um,
I'm just brain dumping the things that hit my head. So feel free to, do whatever you want. I'm just wanted to, as if I'm like, oh, here's a question or a thought about it. My only concern is like, yeah, I think it's been nice that VS Code Fork that's the project that skates between workspaces and Web ID responsibilities. It's nice that the Web ID project has only had the focus on just the Web IDE. I think um I don't know though if there's any reason that needs to stay like that. My head was brainstorming, what if we moved all this Cloudflare stuff to a separate project? Like what if we could trigger downstream jobs to like, pull from these releases and what if like what if it was a separate project that we did downstream pipeline stuff, after we made a release here, we then do a downstream pipeline onto this other project to do stuff. Maybe mm, but that just sounds like a lot of work. So it's like probably not. It's probably the best thing to do for right now is to keep it inside a web ID. I can think of a good reason not to.
and also I feel like that the complexity of adding another project from a security perspective is too high. Like we're paying a very high price by having that every time that we are deploying, like making a security patch, we have to go through three projects. That's
Mm,
something that I want to change. I want
yeah.
like to consolidate as many things in as fewer projects as possible,
Mhm.
so we can move faster and it's easier to reason about changes.
Yeah.
The workspaces depend very likely on what we are deploying to the CDN. It's just extension host and the web view host. Um, I think that and the way in which we are deploying this, the way in which workspaces is using the VS Code for like the front end part is not good. Like
Mm,
I kind of like um, go further in these topics in this call, but there are several reasons why we have to actually like switch away from the way in
yeah.
which we are doing that in workspaces after.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that yeah, I'm seeing an opportunity down the line if Workspaces needs to do something really specific and we want to keep WebID focused, we could, copy this Cloudflare deployment stuff over to the Workspace Tools project and, like have because that's kind of like Workspace's consumption of the VS Code fork. And so Workspaces could do it down the line. It could do its own thing and WebID could do its own thing. It just happens to be that Workspace is just using the Web ID thing for right now, and I think that makes sense. One quick question. This is random, but are we still when we deploy these things? Sorry, are we still gonna scope it to quality and commit, or are they scoped to Web ID version, like each one of those deployments?
Let's go both.
To both.
Yeah, we're gonna scope to preserve backward compatibility. We're gonna scope to quality and commit for workspaces. Then we're gonna scope to Web ID version for the Web
Ah,
ID.
okay. I see. That's what you mean by both. Okay, cool. If that makes sense. I didn't see in the latest, like in the latest. Okay, I don't know if I've seen any code fly through of how that version actually ends up in the URL. Have you has code hit main on that yet or not yet?
Didn't understand the question. What do you mean by
I
hidden names?
um I haven't seen any code that builds this CDN anticipating injecting the web ID version, like, in the extension host. Or is that something that's going to be set in the main project? That would be set in the
Uh,
main project.
yes, that path is gonna be something that is set in the GitLab project instance because we
Got
decided to parameterize.
mm,
So like deployment is independent of the application.
okay. And so we could just require from the package JSON of the web ID, what's the version of it? And that's how we got it. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
So another advantage of that is that we are gonna set up CI uh, such that when you release a Web ID version, it's deployed to the CDN, so it ensures that if the Rails application is pointing to a Web ID version, those assets are already deployed in the CDNs. So there will never be a version mismatch.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. I love it. Sounds great. So this is
So
the I was just looking at this issue. Go ahead. You can introduce it.
yeah, so this is the final stage. This is gonna be the first time that we are using all of this in production. Um, I want to hard code using this um, new workbench like server in GitLab.com behind a feature plan. Uh, Initially, what I was planning is that I wanted to create an application setting in the Rails application. So we could set that parameter via, well, like it'd be like something more dynamic and configurable. We also need it. Like if we want to test this, to give it a run in GitLab.com, we can just like pass this URL as a hard coded value, and then only for GitLab.com and only behind a feature flag.
Yeah,
So in that way, we can start testing this.
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's gonna really change our like uh those that one-off documentation that we wrote for like, oh, here's if you are in an air-gapped instance and you really want Markdown preview, here's how you can host all these assets yourself. It's gonna be like once this is live too, and we actually remove the feature flag, then there's definitely a manual doable process to like that's way better than like, oh, you have to set up your local DNS to point to, because that URL is configurable. That's really exciting.
Yes, yeah. That's the reason also like I this application setting, I'm seeing it as the third phase of the project. And that's for supporting also self-managing. So they will have a artifact that they can deploy. It's gonna be version. It's gonna be separate. They're gonna have an application setting in the Rails application where they can like set their server domain, and they're gonna have documentation on how to do this. It's gonna be like a very good
Yeah.
administration experience.
Yeah. And even just getting in on .com though is like, man, that one security researcher that was throwing,
Yeah,
they're not gonna be able to they're not gonna be able to punk us anymore, Enrique.
he won't like those vacations in Bali. He's not going to Bali anymore. Like I'm so tired of paying for those vacations.
That's the only reason we haven't heard from him. You're right, because we paid him off, and then he's like, "Well, I'm gonna take some time off, and once he needs money, he's gonna come back for the attack, but we'll be ready."
Like not anymore. Like we're stopping them.
That's great. That's great. No, this is fantastic. This is fantastic.
I have a fourth issue. I just like that this documentation, and it's a documentation for us. Um, we need like to update all the developer documentation to explain how the web ID is deployed now. For posterity, all user engineers. But for the third phase, we're gonna have another documentation issue where we create customer documentation for this.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's great. Um, well, I wonder, like, okay, yeah, this is all great. Here's just a crazy idea for that third one for using it. Do we want to just go ahead and add it to the scope? I mean, not a database setting, but reading from the GitLab config YAML with a default value of what we think. Just that way is like self-manages, they can make it, they could do it right away, So if we don't just hard code the value, if we have it coming from GitLab.config YAML, it's like we win .coms and we default it to this value, but we win the .com and self-managed right away. And it's just a small little change.
Well, it's not a small little change because GitLab Llano first is not supported. It's something that is only available in the GTK, and there is an equivalent configuration value that is called GitLab.rb. But that varies depending on the distribution package. So that's for Omnibus. So if you're using deploying GitLab using a Helm chart, it's different. If you're using whatever other way of packaging Kubernetes we are supporting, it's another type of configuration.
Okay, 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 okay. But it's still GitLab conf. Okay, but it's GitLab.config. Like we have defaults somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not. I'm so surprised to hear about the YAML, but I guess so. Okay, that's fine.
Maybe just for .com. and then like we can just like shift our mindset to self manage, and it's better like to approach it in that way. So we are thinking about all the things that we have to think to support those things.
So this is, yeah. Can I share my screen with class?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Um, so I'm looking at, the GitLab.config. We pull a lot of values from here. And I think it loads here. And I'm not sure what configuration is, or maybe this is the bit that is variable. Not entirely sure what just settings is. Uh, but yeah, I thought we have a way of introducing these like top level settings. Even though it's like implemented, maybe it sounds like it's implemented differently. There should be a way for us to just introduce it somewhere and just give it a default value if it's not set, right? Isn't that somewhere?
I'm pretty sure that there is like there should be a way of doing that. It's like I've explored that module. It's like I don't know if it is dynamic, but there is not a declarative list of all the possible settings that you can change. I don't
Mm,
know how that works in practice, but that's
okay.
definitely something that I would like to have for a separate phase of the project. It's already like very complex to think about also like if I'm gonna do if I'm going to introduce a setting, I don't want to introduce it via the GitLab.rb configuration setting because that's discouraged in the first place. So that's something that I would have to delete then and replace it with an application
Yeah,
setting.
but then we could like, at least then there is an avenue for like self-managed to just solve it without us having to do the whole application settings, UI and things for it.
I prefer to do the application setting. It's like it's a matter of timing and it's a better user experience.
Is GitLab.yaml really this? I'm learning things right now. This is really should not. What? Ah! You're right. Okay. Okay. Please also create an MR. Oh, yeah. Okay. Is that where then like I'm really surprised to see that because I thought we'd have some. I got to be honest, I haven't visited this in a long time, but I felt like these pages stuff is like, doesn't this have to get set up like before things start? Are you really setting this up in application settings?
No, there is it depends on the distribution package. That was all
Mm.
shifted to the distribution package that you're using to deploy GitLab.
Mm. Okay. I see. And that's how we may have, okay, okay. And we'll need to figure out how GitLab gets distributed to initialize the web ID stuff.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
a good set. A good a very interesting topic because we have to do that for workspaces as well. Yeah, enable the customer to bring their own domain, and Vishal is working on that. We were sharing like some part of the investigation that I did for the web ID to do it, and I think like we have an opportunity that if he's gonna do it for workspaces, we can do it for the web ID along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. But that is exciting. I was hoping that we could pull two carrots with one pull, but uh looks like we'll have to pull them one at a
It's
time.
fine. So, a matter of timing. Don't worry. Like we've waited long enough already, so having more 2 milestones more to be for self-managed is okay.
It's true. But it looks awesome. Yeah, and this is exciting. This is the last step. Seems like super doable. Gonzalez is gonna get on moving the stuff. So that'd be great. Pretty soon it'll be your time to go to Bali.
What?
For your Bali vacation.
Oh, yes. I mean, I need a South Asia vacation. Like, I've never
Mm.
been there. I've, I've heard that it's like very amazing. Well, folks, this was this was it for the overview of the epics. Thank you for joining, and I'm going to stop the recording.